York Yankees finally make the big move that everyone's been waiting for them to make the whole offseason after being quiet the whole offseason so far here. So the Yankees get the big man Josh Donaldson from the Minnesota Twins and Isaiah Kiner-Falefa, who we spoke about the other day, getting traded from Texas to Minnesota, but he didn't stay in Minnesota long, only for a day, and they trade Gio Urshela and Gary Sanchez. So for years we've been hearing rumors about Gary Sanchez being on the trade block and to get traded from the Yankees, and it finally came to fruition here. And Josh Donaldson, he's a guy that we know has been on the trade block as well. And the Yankees, they're taking on the whole $50 million of the remainder of the contract for Donaldson. So last season with Donaldson, 26 home runs, 72 RBIs, 73 runs scored, a 247 batting average, and a 352 on base. So Donaldson, he definitely still has pop. He definitely is good for fantasy baseball. And now he goes to a team where he's going to have better bats that can protect him in the lineup and a better hitter ballpark as well. And obviously, he's familiar with the AL East, is Josh Donaldson, where he won an MVP a few seasons ago with the Toronto Blue Jays. So right here, it's a great landing spot for him in New York. He gets out of Minnesota, and now he's going to try to compete for a championship with this Yankee team, and having a big bopper like Aaron Judge in the lineup with him as well, and Luke Voigt if he gets back to health, and if they re-sign Anthony Rizzo or not. So the Yankees here, after being quiet, finally make the big move. And Donaldson, in terms of fantasy baseball, obviously he's a guy they're probably going to draft in the 8th to the 10th round area, but I think he could have a better season this year than last in the better ballpark and in a better lineup. But the only thing with him is, over the last few seasons, he does not play a complete season as Josh Donaldson. So injury prone has always been a label for the 36-year-old Donaldson. But if he stays healthy, he's going to be good for fantasy, and he's going to be good for the Yankees. And he's a guy I'll target probably in the 8th to the 10th round area. Now to Gary Sanchez, the last few seasons, it's been a train wreck for him. And I think he just needed out of New York, and that's what happens in this trade. Last season, though, he still had 23 home runs, 54 RBIs, and 383 at-bats, 54 runs scored, but an awful 204 batting average and a 307 on base. So Sanchez, the last few seasons, that batting average has been at the Mendoza line or below the Mendoza line, but the home runs have still been there, where he's going to hit 20, 25 home runs each season. And after trading Mitch Garver with the Minnesota Twins, I would assume Sanchez will start at catcher or the DH spot. Just the only thing now, he goes to a bigger ballpark in Minnesota. But I still think the power is going to be there, and there's going to be a spot for him. You're not just going to trade Donaldson to totally dump the contract, and you get Gary Sanchez in the deal here. So I like the deal for the Twins, believe it or not, because I think Sanchez still has something left. Maybe he could change his approach over there in Minnesota and hit for a higher average, because I believe the power will still be there. And you definitely could target him in the later rounds of your fantasy draft, probably towards the back end, 18th to the 23rd round, to get Sanchez. And they also got Gio Urshela as well, is the Minnesota Twins. And Gio Urshela, he's been a pretty decent New York Yankee over the last few seasons, but now he goes to Minnesota. He's going to be the third baseman, I assume, with the move for Donaldson. And last season here for Urshela, 420 at-bats, 14 home runs, 49 RBIs, 42 runs scored, a 267 average, and a 301 on base. So the only problem with him is he don't draw many walks with that bad on-base to batting average ratio for Urshela. But now he's going to have a bigger role in Minnesota than he did with the New York Yankees, I would think. And he's a guy that I would probably target in the later rounds as well, anywhere from the 18th to the 23rd round. He could play third or shortstop for fantasy baseball, so that's pretty good versatility. He's going to be one of the main hitters on that roster, I would think, now over there in Minnesota, and he's going to get every opportunity to get the 500-plus at-bats this season if he stays healthy. And he's been a solid veteran and pro over the last few seasons, so it's a good deal in that terms for them. And now back to the Yankees part. They get Isaiah Kiner-Falefa, who is only on this Twin team for a day before getting flipped again, and he's going to be the starting shortstop for this Yankee team. This has been the problem with the Yankees' defense up the middle over the last few seasons. And now Gleyber Torres, he'll go to second base here, And Kenneth Falefa's been a hot commodity, but I'm surprised he got traded twice from Texas to Minnesota and now from Minnesota to the New York Yankees. But I think this will be his final destination here before the season starts. So Kenneth Falefa last season, he was a utility Superman for fantasy baseball, playing catcher, outfield, short, third, second. But now he only qualifies at shortstop. And last season, 8 home runs, 53 RBIs, 20 stolen bases, 74 runs scored, 635 at bats, a 271 average, and a 312 on base. So I think he can fit this Yankee lineup like a glove. And his versatility of stealing bases and showing some pop is going to work well, so he could have a good season with New York. I think it's obviously a better landing spot than Minnesota for Kenneth Falefa. So it's a good trade for both teams. The Twins, they wanted out of Donaldson's contract. They got out of it. And they got 2 pretty good pieces as well, I would think, here with Gio Ursulin. I know Sanchez, people have ripped on him for years, but the power is still legit at a catcher position where we don't see many catches hit for power anymore. So a big blockbuster deal with Josh Donaldson going to the New York Yankees. And we'll see what these players will do going into the season, where they're all going to have fantasy value and can contribute to their new teams.